Good afternoon. I'm Johan Coetzee. In this second video about voting behavior and the 2024 elections, I plan to focus on three aspects. And for the purpose of this election, talking about the increasing voter and specific young voter apathy in Namibia since 2014, how to address that. And to some extent, I've already given some economic outline and some economic proposals in the first video about what needs to be done. In this video, I'm going to continue focusing on what can be done to address the increasing voter apathy, given the fact that 71% of the population is now in the age group 18 to 35 years, and 60% are born frees, an increasing generation gap, 8% of the youth in that age group represented in parliament, and the fact that in the ruling party you need, for example, 10 years of service in the Politburo to stand as a potential party candidate. However, Namibia is based on a single transferable vote system as far as the National Assembly elections are concerned. So once you receive a quota, and the quota is the number of eligible voters that casted their votes legally, and that counted, divided by the number of constituencies in Parliament, or not the constituency in Parliament, the number of seats in Parliament, which is 104 minus 8, and that means then 96. As long as you receive that quota, you have one seat in Parliament, and normally it happens that you cannot vote for a specific person because the party decide who's number one and number two and number three on the list. So obviously the ruling party, if you join the ruling party, you have a better chance to be represented in Parliament, and once you sit in Parliament, you have a pension for life. Now, in order to register for presidential candidate, it's much easier. There you need 7,000 eligible registered voters signatures in order to register. We have 24 political parties in Namibia, and that means it's a fragmentation of a multi-party system. And what can be done about come back to the growing voter apathy? Number one, as Professor Thomas Howell said, always ask your question compared to what? If young people and especially voters are not going to vote, what is the alternative compared to what? That means you will get a government that is not representative of the will of the people if only 49% is going to vote. In the local election in Moses Garabeb, end of 2023, only 12% of voters actually turned up. So that is not a legitimate government in that specific local constituency. And this is what we want to prevent, that democracy is strong and that you vote and your vote counts, and you must make sure that your vote is counting. So that is the alternative compared to what? Another question one also need to ask is at what cost? By not voting, especially the younger voters, you actually allow other people to decide on your behalf the future of you and your children, and how the society's problems should be identified, what are the most problems, and you have no say into it. You are just reacting to it. And that is not conducive, that is not the positive mindset. Even though younger people are very woke, it's the older people that tend to go and stand in the queues for hours to register and to vote. So in order to change that, one can also change the political system around and ask younger people, and especially those of them, to become involved in local politics at the local government level, organize the community, identify what needs to be done, identify priorities, and also link some costs to that, and then invite the different politicians to come and tell the community how these plans can be implemented. Instead of waiting for politicians to make promises on behalf of taxpayers about what money needs to be spent, because the most vocal politicians, especially if they are career politicians, will make the biggest promises in order to get them the votes, irrespective if the country can afford it, irrespective if the country can afford free education, free housing, a free national pension fund, or free health insurance. Irrespective of that, politicians that make the biggest promises and the biggest noise are normally those that tends to be elected. So I think we also elect not always the right leaders. An example of that is, for example, Ernest Shackleton, that have tried to attempt to reach the Arctic. I think he have had 3 attempts, and which he lost, and he died in the last one. He's much more famous as a leader compared to Amundsen, that actually said he would do it in 99 days, and he reached the Arctic actually in 100 days because of careful planning. So those leaders that actually stand out in terms of consistency, quiet and careful planning, they are normally less known and less popular than those charming ones that dish out promises and make promises and then don't deliver because they change the rules of the game the whole time. Nonetheless, if we are not going to vote, and 53% of voters, not voters, people that have been surveyed in around 10 of the Afrobarometer survey indicated they don't actually have a problem if there's political instability and the military plays a bigger role. And now that is the alternative, and that means it opens the gate for a dictatorial state, military coups as in West Africa, as we've seen also in Zimbabwe, as we've seen Venezuela and Afghanistan, Argentina, and Cuba, and those in a number of South American countries. And those are the type of alternatives I don't think we want, because revolutions never bring peaceful solutions, with the exception of one revolution that happened by accident, not due to planning, and that was the American Revolution. All the others end in bloodshed and create a circle of violence and more bloodshed and more violence, as we can see from the French Revolution, for example, from the Russian Revolution, from the Chinese Revolution. Socialism has killed about 100, not socialism itself, but the leaders of socialism in China and Russia have killed about, Pol Pot is there from also included there, about 100 million people. Mao Zedong, more than 30 million of his own people. So it comes at a big cost, and those are the alternatives, the cost we don't want. And that's why we stand for democracy. And that's why people need to vote for democracy, irrespective of the party, so that we have a legitimate government, a representative government, where we can try to solve our problems in a mutual way with flexibility and tolerance, and where we have modest, humble leaders that are prepared to serve the people instead of leaders that are making noises. So these are the alternatives. I think we also have a leadership vacuum in Namibia. We don't have a number of servant leaders in Namibia like Jose Mujica, like Mahatma Gandhi, like Thomas Sankara, and we seldom hear leaders talk about character. For example, Martin Luther King said that he would like to see a country, the USA, where after his death, his children will live in a society where they are judged based on their character and not based on the color of the skin. Those type of leaders are very seldom known in Namibia and in Africa because we focus too much on blaming the West, blaming the white person, and blaming each other with tribalism and elitism and ethnic diversities, because there are a number of differences between people in countries, and then it takes much more of an effort to work together compared to a country where there's much more homogeneous. And then the last question that Thomas Sowell also said that compared to what, at what cost, and where's the evidence? Well, the evidence I've provided already, and that is Venezuela, China, Russia, Cuba, North Korea, Argentina, Afghanistan, and a number of other countries also, where we have seen bloodshed and turmoil, and where people are not respected based on their differences and what they bring to the table, but based on fundamentalistic principles. And I think by adopting this tolerance and flexibility to listen to each other, to accept accountability and transparency and open with each other, and to able to listen to each other, young people, we can convince young people to go out and vote. So that is my message, to encourage young people to vote. Thank you.